pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Gene. Francine, will you please read the roll? Like that called the roll.
Commissioner Borge?
Here.
Commissioner Fotheringham?
Here.
Commissioner Grimm is absent. Commissioner Loomis?
Here.
Commissioner Norkin?
Here.
Commissioner Poprock is absent. Commissioner Shentez?
Here.
Chair Searden?
Here.
And Vice Chair Silverberg.
Here.
Thank you.
Now is the time in our program for public comments. And our first public speaker will be Richard Durning, who's going to talk to us about taxes. Richard, the podium is all yours. Yeah.
My name is Richard Dorian.
No, go on up to the podium, then you'll have the mic and...
My name is Richard Dorian. I'm a tax preparer. I've been doing this for 12 years. We actually have 19 people volunteered this year. 14 of them are actually certified. And certification, the IRS requires 3 different tests. They're all up to advanced. It requires a passing score of at least 80, which is pretty hard. Okay. We've opened up a new site this year in Newbury Park at the library. We have also, our hours are actually from all 3 sites are from 9 o'clock till 3:30 in the afternoon. Newbury Park is on Wednesdays. Global Center is on Thursdays and Fridays. We will take anybody whose income is below $45,000, or if they're over 60, there is no limit on their income. Okay. We won't do any type of rentals. We won't do any type of businesses. We do everything else almost. Okay. We won't do any stock traders either, which we get a few of them. Okay. Big changes this year, not many. One of the big changes this year is property tax is deductible on a 1040 now. It never was before. For people who cannot itemize but pay property tax, you now can include it on the 1040. It's $500 if you're single, and it's $1,000 if you're married. But your bill has to be over that amount. Okay. Other than that, all the stuff last year is exactly the same as this year. You still can deduct sales tax. You can still deduct property tax, everything else, medical. No big differences. We do have a lot. We did 1,300 returns last year. Most of the guys, I think all the people last year returned this year to do taxes again. So, and I picked up 3 more new people. So, actually, it's grown. It's pretty interesting type of an operation because basically nobody has the same taxes. We learn the preparers learn from everybody because it's basically everybody's totally different. All have different problems, and we do earned income credit, which can mean, and I just had one this morning, which ended like $3,000 or $4,000. I think up to maximum this year is $4,800 you'll get back from the government. We do child care, we do retirement credits, all that stuff that the IRS has. I recommend most people do their own taxes and find out what the results and go in and have it checked, because I think you ought to know what your taxes are, you ought to know what your burdens are. This year, quality is a big problem with the IRS. They're making us audit every one of these returns before we send it in. Some of the problem you run into is miskey the address. They may get their state back and not their federal, the other first advice. So we're trying to catch any type of typo errors, stuff like that. But last year, I think we had 8% reject, which is really above national average. The national average was over 10. And a lot of that was because of people not knowing that they were claimed on somebody else's return. Elderly people just don't realize that, that they were claimed by a daughter or by somebody else. So that was one of the problems. Okay. Other than that, I don't think I have much more comments. You've got some questions.
Our
Are there any questions, Gene?
Yes, Richard. Last year, as I recall, your hours were from 9 until 3, is that right? And at 9 o'clock, at least at the Global Senior Center, there was just a crowd of people there early in the day, and then it filtered out. I wonder if we shouldn't advise our audience to try to spread the times out that they come rather than have everybody come so early in the morning.
But usually when it gets 60, we've had 60 people out there, and basically
Yes,
you actually do 8 returns at a time. You can wipe that crowd out pretty fast. And basically, if you've had returns done at the Global Center previously, we load in that return automatically. They don't have to rekey it at all. The address, all the W-2s, everything you had last year is reloaded. So basically, all they have to do is do the changes. And so if you haven't changed anything else, it's pretty easy. We only e-file. We have no paper, no books, anything. State and federal both e-filed. We print all the forms. They get a complete copy of the return. Basically, if you owe money or anything else, you got a little slip. You put your check in and mail it. It's pretty simple.
It is first come, first served, though, is it not? No appointment.
We do have a slight reservation system that basically is you come in there and basically you have to come back. You can specify what day you want to come back, so you don't have to wait through the whole crowd again. Okay. But we do that. You can only make a reservation when we're open. You cannot make it any other time. Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah. Martin?
Would you like to tell them what they should bring with them when they...
Oh, yeah. Well, they should bring a photo ID and a Social Security cards. They should bring their Social Security statement. They should bring any type of W-2s, 1099s, any interest statements, the typical. They should bring in the broker statements. They should know what it costs them if they sell anything. That's one of the biggest problems a lot of seniors have. They just don't know what it costs when they sold something. Should bring their tax bill, since this year it is deductible. So even though they didn't itemize, it is deductible. So that's a big change. We are resubmitting the stimulus package again this year. And what they're doing is they're calculating your income this year against the package, and if there's any changes, they will actually give you that credit. And if you didn't get paid last year, didn't file it, you'll actually get the money back. So, and it's part of the return this year. They're asking you what was your paid stimulus package was. We can actually look it up online too. If you want a direct deposit, like right now, if you file by noon on Wednesday, the check will be in the bank next Friday. Not this Friday, but next Friday. If you physically file before noon today, it'll be mailed to you by the next following Friday. That's how fast the IRS turns around. It's 12 days from this date. Okay. Other than that. We'll do standalone type businesses like easy, can't have a loss, but there are people that get paid like Empire, people play in baseball games, the Empire and stuff like that get paid. They get paid in miscellaneous. We do those type of returns. Other than that, that's about it. Most of these guys we have one that has been working on this project for 22 years, so we have, most of our preparers have at least 5 years in, and most of them have at least put 60 hours worth of effort to even pass the test, so there's been a lot of effort. There've been big changes this year. We're online. We used to be standalone, where these guys get to go home and practice before they ever come, so they can do it in their own time, which they're much better than they were before. They knew a lot more that's going on. So, yeah.
Yeah, Richard, with the e-filing, I assume that your computer's at the Global Center, and then you're somehow tied into IRS. So I assume that you have a secure, encrypted link right on through.
Right. There are no client data, any PCs here.
Okay.
Okay. It is encrypted to them. We don't know the results. There's some advantage the IRS is doing, because basically we can't tell you whether the return is good until about 24 hours later.
Yeah.
And basically what happens is we're supposed to fix it, because they find out half the letters they send out nobody answers to. And so it's easier for them to do this, and it's never accepted until it's final. So basically if it's rejected, it's not been accepted. So and the software has the ability to tell you exactly what's wrong with the return if it knows it. So it's really any other questions?
On behalf of the Council on Aging, Richard, I really want to thank you for your countless hours and the work you do in this community. It has been honored in the past, but again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker under public speaker is a good friend of ours, Susan Cashman, former Miss Senior California, and she's going to tell us about an upcoming event right here in Thousand Oaks.
Thank you, Jim. Hi, everyone. I'm Susan Cashman. I was Miss Senior California 2007, and my purpose in coming to these meetings is to let you know about a wonderful, wonderful, exciting event that's coming right here in the Conejo Valley. It's the first annual Miss Senior Conejo Valley Pageant. This is a preliminary pageant for the Miss Senior California pageant, which will be in September. Now, what is a preliminary pageant, you may ask? Well, because California is such a large state, we have preliminary pageants from San Diego all the way up to Santa Clara. This is the first time we have a venue in Thousand Oaks, and we're really excited about it. This is such a fabulous community. And it's going to be at the Goebel Senior Center, May 31st, Sunday at 1:30 p.m. Now, what the purpose of the preliminary pageants are, the first top 3 winners are the ones that go on to the Miss Senior California pageant. You can't just join or enter the Miss Senior California pageant. You have to qualify for it. And the top 3 will go on to that pageant. Women are judged. Oh, by the way, you must be 60 years of age and a citizen of the United States. Women are judged in 4 categories. The first is the private interview, which the audience never gets to see. But this private interview counts as many points as the talent section. The second thing category is your philosophy of life, which you must recite in 35 seconds. The idea being that what you have learned and what you want to share with your peers and the younger generation, what's your philosophy of life, what you believe in, not a history, a philosophy. Then you are judged in your modeling and your formal attire. And the 4th category is the favorite one of all, of course, and that is talent. I have had many calls from women that are interested in joining the pageant, and I have a lot of applications out there. But it's really interesting because when we talk on the phone and I ask them, what is your talent? Silence. Talent? I have to have a talent. So I say, okay, wait a minute now. Talent is not just being able to sing and dance or play a musical instrument or twirl a baton. There's a little more to that. You can be very talented in writing poetry. The girl who won first runner-up in the Miss Senior America pageant recited Taps, the story of Taps, with a musical and kind of a battle noise in the background of her CD. She was first runner-up. She was so fabulous when she read that poem. Absolutely fabulous. We've had women that bring artwork and they put it on easels in back of them. We've had women that bring the sweaters and put them out that they've made. The whole point is this is for senior women. It's a chance to get up and show that we're still going strong, that we've got something to share with you. Now, whoever wins the Miss Senior California pageant will then go on to represent California in the Miss Senior America pageant in New Jersey, Atlantic City, New Jersey. All expenses are paid. All expenses are paid. And I can only guarantee you 2 things. 1, that you will meet a lot of wonderful, wonderful women. And 2, you'll have an awful lot of fun. Isn't it wonderful that we can still get up and do our thing? I think that's very important. Very, very important. How many chances does a senior have to get on a stage? Not too many. Except for some here that are going strong. So come on, give me a call. Susan Cashman, 818-883-8975. There's still time to enter. It's not until May, and I will be glad to help you with your talent. Whatever questions I can answer, I'll be happy to do it. Thank you very much for your time. Any questions from the panel? Not a thing. Okay, I'll hope to see you all there.
Thank you very much, Susan.
Thank you.
Now it's time for us to move on to our guest speaker. I'll turn the meeting over to Commissioner Loomis for the introduction of our guest speaker.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, I don't know about the rest of my compatriots here on the panel, but when I was a kid growing up, one of the things I most wanted to do was ride on one of those big, noisy fire rigs and mess around with the equipment. So just to show you that we're out there in TV land speaking to both sides of the brain today, we have, first of all, Ms. California, and now we've got something about firefighters, which, guys, wake up. This is the one you wanted. This was the one you were waiting for. We have today a special guest. We had hoped that Ron Oatman, who is the Public Information Officer for Ventura County Fire, would be here with us today because he has a really cool truck, and maybe we could go out and take a look at it. But he's carefully arranged a controlled burn and the Rincon fire, and so he's handling public information for those. And a member of his PIO cadre, a fellow by the name of Bill Thomas, is here to go through Captain Oatman's presentation. And I'm kind of glad to meet Bill because he's typical of the kind of support people that we can expect and depend on in this city and in the county. He's a firefighter paramedic. He's stationed at Station 31, and those of you who go to the main post office here in Thousand Oaks are going to pass right by his station, and sometimes you probably have been shocked as they roll out their Code 3 and make a turn on to Duesenberg to go to an emergency. He tells me that he was the oldest rookie hired into the Ventura County Fire Department, a member originally of the Pruner emergency medical team and their ambulances. He resides in Moore Park, and he has more hair than I have, so I guess that makes him a good speaker. We welcome with a great deal of pleasure a fellow who's going to talk to us about something that concerns us in a very interesting and important way. The question is, should I go or should I stay? And the answer is going to depend a whole lot on how we get through our wildfire planning, and Bill Thomas will help us with that. Thank you, sir, for being here today.
Thank you very much, Leonard, for that introduction. Captain Oatman is sorry that he wasn't able to make it today. He does have the fire that he's working on today, so he did send me, and I hope I can carry the torch for him, so to speak. I am here to talk to you today about what we refer to as our Wildfire Action Plan. And in that Wildfire Action Plan is a relatively new program that came about, which we refer to as a, it's affectionately called LEOSAB, but it means Leave Early or Stay and Defend. And what this was born from were the fact that when we have these wildfires and when we go into people's communities and the fires are butting up against the homes, we ask people to evacuate. And over time, people have come to understand that mandatory evacuation doesn't necessarily mean they have to go. We, as firefighters, can't force you out of your home. We strongly recommend that people leave, and when we say mandatory evacuation, we're very serious about it. We mean you need to get out of your homes. Your life is in danger. Having said that, people can remain in their homes. So understanding that it's an individual's right to do that, what we wanted to do was to say, well, if you are going to stay, we'd like to give you some information that could possibly save your property and maybe your life. However, with the emphasis on when we ask you to leave, that's what we recommend. We're not recommending you stay and defend. We're recommending you leave. But if you are, we're going to help give you some tools that maybe are going to help you. And by tools, I don't mean fire hoses or firefighting equipment. We're going to give you tools to prepare yourself for it. So if TOTV would cue up the PowerPoint. So what you're seeing there is kind of the typical picture of what it looks like when we arrive, and it's you can see on the right-hand corner there, you're looking at a home to your right, and obviously the Wildland Urban Interface. And for those of you that don't know what a Wildland Urban Interface, it simply means where the city meets the brush. And that's become very popular over the years. I'm sure everybody's familiar with seeing how everybody wanted to live in the city in the old days. Now everybody wants to be out in the country, and in doing so, we're getting more and more people out into the hills, and therefore more of a Wildland Urban Interface. So the slide is saying preparation, and this is not a new concept. Our fire department, Ventura County Fire Department, has been advising homeowners to prepare for wildfires for years, and we've been doing this through our program of weed abatement, through public information messages. Preparation is not new to anybody, I don't think, as far as emergency goes. We've been the ones that have been stressing defensible space around your house, and that's been one of the determining factors in us being able to save as many homes. I think if you've seen some of the fires that we've had in our county in recent history, we've had some pretty good success as a result of very aggressive firefighting tactics that our firefighters use, both on the ground and in the air, and as this defensible space that we use, this 100-foot weed abatement clearance that we require around people's homes. And that weed abatement program has been a model for other fire agencies to use. We've been contacted by them, and they've asked, how does it work? How do you implement it? And those of you that live in these areas that have had to have your weeds cleared, I'm sure you've probably dealt with us one or two times and seen us out there. And, we don't like to take the hard line. We certainly like to have the citizens do the job on their own and get it done without too much prompting from us. But we're out there to make sure it's done, not just for your own home and your safety, but for that of your neighbors and in the community. And that's the 100-foot clearance that I speak about. Other things that prepare homes are proper building construction, getting rid of the shake roof, the wood shake roofs that we all used to have and everybody really enjoyed, and getting the composition roofs or the tile roofs, wood siding, wood shingled houses. These burn easier than stucco or cement does. And then, of course, other forms of preparedness, which we'll get into a little bit more, but, disaster kits, having things on hand to be self-sufficient as time goes by. So what you're looking at there is just the cover of our wildfire action plan, and at the end I'm going to access that for you and show you how to access that through our website. But this can be picked up at any one of our fire stations. It can be picked up in our headquarters. And what it was is it was designed to help create residents who live in areas prone to wildfires just to understand the dangers of wildfires and to help them be prepared. So it's an informational booklet, but it was done very well. And inside that talks a lot about the Leave Early or Stay and Defend, or the LEOSAT, as I mentioned. So you can pick up a lot of information about that in there. The key is having a plan before a wildfire or any other emergency happens. That's the best way to survive it. And if you have some advanced planning and preparation, everyone will be ready. But what I'm going to stress throughout this whole talk is that preparation is the key, and without the preparation, then I think your chances of faring won't be as well. I think everybody's heard this one quite a bit, but fire season is here year-round. We used to have declare fire season between June and October. That's when we'd have your weed abatement clearance had to be done, and we'd have restrictions on outdoor burning and such. That's year-round now, and warmer weather, drought conditions that we've had, this has pushed us into a year-round, and what's happening is we're starting to see fires occurring in months that we never used to see them before. We're having brush fires in December. We're having brush fires in January. We're having brush fires in spring. So fire season is truly here year-round. Why we let people know this is we want them to have that heightened sense of awareness and a wildfire preparedness plan all year long. Don't be just thinking about this June through October. Don't be thinking about it when it's hot and the winds are blowing. And this isn't just for the citizens. This is for us as well. As firefighters, we're finding that we're staffing more people year-round. Well, I shouldn't say that, but year-round. At times we normally didn't staff the extra people. It used to be we'd staff them on the hot, windy days. Now we're finding drier days and weather conditions being what they are causing us to have a more heightened sense. The picture you're looking at there right there, typically that's what we refer to as our hand crew. These are usually younger men and women who enter the fire service prior to be assigned to fire stations. They are the ones that you see up in the hills that climb up. They cut fire breaks right in the middle of fires. They remove vegetation. They will man hose lines. And the reason I'm bringing them up is they are kind of the unsung heroes. These young men and women do some extremely aggressive firefighting work, and you'll never see them on, other than a shot like this, you'll never get an interview from them or get to know their names, but they'll be up in these hills, live 24 hours at a time, sleeping in the dirt, eating in the dirt, and they just do a fantastic job. But the title above it is talking about in a major wildfire, there won't be enough fire engines or firefighters to defend every home. Unfortunately, it is kind of a misconception that there would be a fireman and fire engines at every home and we're going to protect everything, and the reality is that just isn't the case. Each year, fire consumes hundreds of homes in the wildland-urban interface. CAL FIRE, for example, estimates that as many as 80% of the homes lost could have been saved had the homeowners followed just simple fire-safe practices. And the reality is that there simply aren't enough of these firefighters and engines to go around, and so we're relying on homeowners to be prepared early to get the vegetation cleared, to do their weed abatement, to look at their homes, to evaluate their homes and see what they can do to make sure that their home is defensible. Because if we're not there, and this is one of these homes, and I think you've all seen them on TV, where the weeds are right up against the house, there's combustibles all around, and the fire rolls in, and there's just so little you can do to save that. We're going to try as hard as we can, but sometimes it ends up a losing battle. So here's a great picture of defensible space. As you can see to the left, the hillside is black. That's been charred by a fire. At the base of the charred hill, you see, and I don't know how clear the picture is, but you see some pretty expensive homes there. But if you look around it, in between the black and the homes, you'll see defensible space. And at least 100 feet is what we require. Sometimes we require more in hazardous zones. But because they had this defensible space, the fire ran out of fuel. And that's why we have defensible space. It gives us also a chance to defend your home in between the advancing fire and your property. Keep in mind, when you are clearing brush, dry weeds, doing any kind of mowing, please try to do it before noon when the temperatures are cooler. That way you're less likely to spark a fire. A lot of times we've had people doing the right thing by clearing their brush and accidentally sparking fires by doing it. But this just demonstrates when the fire runs out of fuel, it's going to run out of things to burn, and we're going to be there, and that gives us a defensible space too. We're a little less likely to burn up firemen too as well, because they have a place to stand in between the fire and your home. So don't wait to clear brush. If you look at this picture here, you can see how that brush is right up against the home. Keep in mind, the brush does not have to hit right up against your home. It simply needs to be close enough to your home to generate enough heat that can break out your windows and send embers inside your house. I know a lot of times on TV you'll see these homes that look just like this, tile roof, composition roofs, made of stucco, and they're on fire. And as a firefighter, I'm always kind of amazed by it, because I think, gosh, how does this burn? But when you've been on these fires and you see them, then you understand, because the radiant heat is so close to the home, because the weed abatement or the vegetation was so close to the home, the radiant heat was able to break out the windows. It was allow embers to go inside and start the inside of the home on fire. Once you have your contents of your home on fire, it's pretty easy to burn up the rest of it. So this kind of gives you an example how fire runs uphill and how close it can get to a home, and the more vegetation you have closer to your home, the more dangerous. The better strategy really is keeping everything cleared year-round. That applies to leaves, pine needles up on your roof, rain gutters and such. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's a year-round thing. Don't wait until we come knocking on your door and telling you, hey, this is old. I'm sorry, but we got to give you a final warning. It's for your own good, and you'd really want to keep on top of that. Red Cross, everybody knows they do fantastic work here in the community, have for many years throughout the world, and certainly they never forget Ventura County. When we have structure fires where families are displaced, they're always there and always willing to help. They recommend that families have emergency supply kit assembled long before wildfire emergency occurs. Again, preparedness, getting this done prior to the emergency happening. If we wait until wildland season, or I don't know how many people have time to put an earthquake to get kit together while there is an earthquake going on. But you'd be surprised. We go to people's homes after the Northridge earthquake, we'd go to people's homes, and very few people had even flashlights. And they're getting up and they're walking around in the dark, and there's broken glass, and they're in bare feet, and you can see how the scenario builds. On the wildfire action plan, I believe it's page 3. If you pick that up and look at it, you'll find a list of items that you should have in your kit. This is a minimum. You can, of course, add more to your kit based on your individual needs, but I believe it's a 3-day kit is what they recommend, but certainly add more to it, but it gives you a great way to get yourself started. But again, it's something you have to go out and do prior to. So here's the big question. Should I stay or should I go? Let me say again, the Ventura County Fire Department recommends you leave, and we recommend that you leave early, especially in the case of a mandatory evacuation. When somebody comes to your door, firefighters or sheriff's department or police officers, and they're recommending that you evacuate, this is based on training and experience that we have. We don't take it lightly, asking you to leave your home. We know how difficult that can be for you. So when we come to your house and we're telling you to get out, it's for your own good. Having said that, we also recognize that it's well within your right to stay. But please, what I don't want this message that we're getting out there is that we recommend that people stay within their homes. We're just going to give you some tools should you decide to stay on how to best protect yourself. So you're taking a look at that slide right there, and that's it's a pretty ominous scene, and you can see how that's on its way towards those houses down below it. Brush fire fatalities most commonly occur when people leave their home too late and are overtaken by fire. So they made the decision to leave too late. If you live in an area that's at high risk for brush fire, your first choice should always be to leave early, especially when you know the fire's on its way. If that isn't possible, then you have to be prepared to stay and defend your home and yourself. If you're not going to leave, the preparedness, I can't stress enough, if you're not prepared and you decide to stay, the outcome may not be as favorable as you'd like. Now, the bottom line, the decision to stay or go needs to be made before the fire starts, and you need to be well prepared to do both, and you need to understand what it means to stay or go. And you really have to, you have to understand what stay means. I think people have the best intentions of staying, and going is the same thing. I mean, if you've decided to go, we'll talk about that in a little bit. Where are you going? How are you getting there? So both of these questions have to be thought about, and decision has to be made prior to. So leave early or stay and defend. So there's a picture of, I think we've all seen this on the news. It's one of their favorite shots, I think, is the citizen out there with garden hoses. In this situation, that looks somewhat harmless. But I have to tell you that these garden hoses are no match for fires that are racing up hills. Unfortunately, we lose firefighters every year, men and women who are trained day in and day out, retrained year after year to fight brush fires. And if people with that type of training and that type of experience can get themselves into a situation that can take their life, think how easy it would be for the untrained civilian. Sad as the pictures I'm painting, you need to understand that when you're making your decision to stay or go. So let me tell you a few things to think about. Prepare your property before the fire gets here. I keep stressing that. Building construction. I talked about tile and comp roofs. They add to the survivability of your house. And since we can't protect every home, you must be prepared to be self-sufficient should you decide to stay. That means you have to be able to be able to defend what it is you're staying for. The decision to stay and defend a well-prepared property or to go must be made well ahead. If you decide to go, decide that today or tomorrow. Talk with your loved ones. Evaluate your situation. Think to yourself, is this a situation we should stay? And make that decision early. And stick to it and say, this is what we're going to do. And then have your plan to leave. I'm going to leave, and I'm going to leave by driving up Jan's Road to Lynn. I'm going to make a left on Lynn. I'm going to head to, and know where you're going. Now, you're going up Jan's Road, and it's blocked. A bunch of people are leaving, and they left their cars in the middle of the road. What is your plan B? So going can sometimes be almost as difficult as staying. So you want to have a plan for both of those. Have a trigger point to decide when you're going to leave. What is it about the fire? Is it what you've seen in the news? Is it what you've seen heard on the radio? What is it that's going to make you go? Where is that threshold where you say, once we get to this point, we're going to leave, and let everybody know, within your family, this is our trigger point. This is when we are going to leave. If you don't think you can or should stay, you should leave before the fire impacts your area. If you have doubt, if you think, I can't stay, this isn't for me, there's nothing wrong with that, but certainly leave before there's so many fire apparatus in your neighborhood and more people coming in, and the looky-loos and such makes it more difficult to leave. Leaving at the last minute is extremely dangerous. Now you're leaving in a panic, and people that leave in a panic, unfortunately, are going to make decisions in a panic. And whatever your plan, stay or go, make sure you rehearse that plan before the fire. Make sure you thought about it. Talk with your loved ones, talk with your family members, and say, here's our plan. Talk about it. Spend an evening maybe and say, this is what we're going to do. Hey, let's drive the route that we're going to take when we leave here. So what this is here is also in your wildfire action plan. This is the leave early checklist. Best thing about this is you can read it and see if it applies to you. That's page 10 of your wildfire action plan. And again, any citizen that wants to come by any fire station to pick one of these up, we'd love to have them come over and pick up a copy of one of these, and we'd be more than happy to talk to them about what's inside it. I think this speaks for itself, but you want to get this plan established, rehearse this plan, be prepared on this plan, and then it says on there during red flag alert days. I think we all know what those are. You always hear those on the news, and it says, well, some people have better graphics than others on their TV station. Basically, that's referring to windy days, hot days, and dry days. And those are just this little triangle of potential for fire that we as firefighters take very seriously. We're constantly monitoring the weather, and on those kind of days, we're looking at the moisture and the fuels that are around the area, the relative humidities, and we can kind of figure out what the bad days are. Well, you want to know that. Listen to the local media and let them tell you what the weather is, and that's going to help you to implement your plan. But it's pretty self-explanatory on what you want to fill out on here. But again, this is for the leave early plan. Okay, well, being firefighters, we always have a plan B, so we have the stay and defend plan. But if you look at it, you'll see there are differences in it. And this is when you start looking at this and start really evaluating yourself to say what you're going to do as the fire approaches. And again, the information to fill this in is you don't have to come up with this on your own. It's all contained in the Wildfire Action Plan. Remember, this decision needs to be made long before the fire started, and it has to be based on several factors. Is your home properly prepared? Is it defensible? Are you mentally and physically able to defend your home? Because if you read this Wildfire Action Plan, you're going to see what we're asking. If you make that decision, we're hoping you're able to do some of the things that we recommend. And some of those have to do with going around with shovels and putting out little fires, putting a ladder to your roof, climbing up on a ladder with a hose and putting out little spot fires here and there. These are the things that if you're going to stay, you may be forced with doing. You're going to be breathing in a lot of smoke. Do you have any previous lung conditions? There's so many factors, and it's all contained in there. But are you mentally and physically able to stay and defend? Are you prepared to be self-sufficient? Do you have food? Do you have water? What if the power goes out? Do you rely on the power for anything? Some people are on home oxygen, for example, or they have devices that require a constant source of electricity. Can they survive that? Have you completed your checklist and rehearsed it? Are you familiar with the stay and defend procedures in this pamphlet located on page 9? You have to be familiar with those, because if you're not, then I don't think you'd honestly know what you're getting into. And then the one that we tell people all the time, and it's easy for me to say, I've never lost my home or loved one in a wildfire. But honestly, I mean this when I say that property can be replaced, but lives cannot. And unfortunately, the last thing we want to do is see a citizen stay in their home and not be able to defend it properly, and have something happen to them. That's certainly not our goal at all. So anyway, there's your stay and defend program. So here's your do your part to help us defend, and I'll go through some items that do this. But basically, what you're looking at is a nice stucco house, isn't it? Stucco doesn't burn. It looks like they still have a wood shake roof on there, and embers blow when the wind's blowing. It can actually raise those embers up, and it can raise the shingles up and blow the embers in under the shingles. But we don't see it. You won't see it for quite a while. They sit in there and smolder, and then they catch on fire. And also, you look down below that, you'll see that vent there. It's got a grate on it, but that certainly can't hold embers back. So let me just read a few things that you'll find on pages 6 and 7 that'll tell you how to defend your home. Proper roofing material, like we talked about, tile roofs, comp roofs, cleaning pine needles and leaves from your roof gutters, and cutting branches away from your roofs. Ladder fuels, as we refer to them. It's a ladder for the fire to go from what's burning to the next source of fuel. The vents on your home are potential entry points for embers. So you want to cover those vents with 1/4 inch wire mesh or smaller, and that should help you to keep out the embers. Wood shingle or wood siding on houses burns faster than stucco or cement, and I think we all know that, but it's something to consider when evaluating your property. Cover chimneys or stovepipe outlets with 1/2 inch wire mesh or smaller. Cut branches away from chimneys. Branches hanging over chimneys can, sparks come out of your chimney. You don't want to be the one that starts the fire. Decks should be made of heavy timber or fire-resistant material if possible. Keeping your driveways and your roads accessible for you to get out and for us to get in. Your getting out is as important as our getting in. If we can't get in, if we can't get our fire engine up to your house, We'll get to your house. It just takes us longer. We have to carry more equipment in, whereas driving in on the engine's faster. So make sure your overhead clearance is sufficient and that those roads are free and clear of anything on them so everybody can get in and out. Keep 100 feet of defensible space, clear the vegetation around your home, and try to landscape it with fire-resistant plants. Kind of common sense, but that 100 feet of defensible space is made all the difference for us. Like I said, if you can combine that with aggressive firefighting, which we're going to provide for you, you're going to have a much better chance. Keeping wood piles, combustibles, and propane tanks away from your home. We see this all the time. Even when it's not a fire, we may be running a medical call at somebody's home, and we'll look and we'll comment to each other, hey, can't wait to see this house in October, when the winds are blowing, because there's things up against in fact, now it's year-round, but you can kind of see where that's going. You're not doing yourself any favors. Certainly keep trees away from power poles on the windy days. You've all seen that where the tree limbs hit into the power poles, the lines begin to arc, snaps power poles, sparks are flying, power lines. And these are just a few items to consider. Like I said, on page 7 and 8, they go into greater detail. We're hoping everybody picks up the wildfire action plan. So something to consider. Questions or comments? And that would be anything that has to do with what I've described. If I missed anything, I think if you have the brochure in front of you, I probably have, and or any questions in general about our fire department.
Do you want to quickly go to show how to get to the action plan on the website?
I do want to quickly go to how to get that, and so I'm going to have assistance. And those of you that know me know that having assistance on a computer is nothing new for me. So now, do I click on that?
You can. This is the main website.
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem.
This is our Ventura County Fire Department website, and it's an excellent source of information. As you see down here, I'm moving that little guy. That shows you what the front page of our wildfire action plan looks like. And I believe you're saying I can click on this. So now, if this comes up, look at that. And I think you could probably go from page to page.
And you can actually save it to your own computer.
And you can actually save it to your own computer. And I've discovered all this without any prompting. So, no, I appreciate that. It says up in the top left, right here, save a copy. But the good thing about this is by going to the website now, if you're unable to get down to a fire station, you'd be able to bring this up on your website, on your computer, and look at all the information that's in there. A lot of hard work was put into this by our fire chief and other fire agencies in developing this plan. It's a very informative plan. It is also a plan that puts the decision to stay or go on you, and ultimately you have to make that decision. So we're hoping that you read it and base your decision, make it an informed decision. So, questions at all?
Yeah, thank you. Bill, the city of Ventura, the city of Thousand Oaks had an ordinance, I don't know if it's still in existence, which said that if you're if by June you haven't cleared shrubs from, debris from your hills and so forth and so on, and weeds, then the city will go in, get it done through a contractor, and bill you for it. I heard that. That's still true?
What you had said was the city of Ventura. Are you? Okay, city of Thousand Oaks. Okay, because I work for Ventura County Fire Department, and it is an ordinance that's in place. It's been there for quite a while. It's called we refer to it as our weed abatement program, and this is what gives us that 100 feet of defensible space. We have this in place for the homeowners primarily, for their safety. This program is designed to put this defensible space between the wildland urban interface, and your home. And it's designed to give an advancing fire to take away its fuel, to keep it from burning, to keep radiant heat away from your homes, and to give us a place to take a stand at. Because if we have this defensible space, it's much easier for us to protect your home. Doesn't mean the embers can't fly and catch your home on fire, but I feel a lot better when I'm fighting a fire and I've got 100 feet behind me of no fuel while I'm putting out the fire that's on your house. So having said that, it's important that people understand that program is set up for the protection of the citizens and, of course, its firefighters. We have a system set up to where people receive notices if they live in these areas. For example, if you live across the street from the Civic Arts Plaza, you're not going to get a notice to abate weeds. You don't have it. Those of you that live in the Wildland Urban Interface have probably seen these notices. You're asked to clear it by a deadline, send it in that you've cleared. You're asked if you would like inspection of your property or no inspection. We go out, and every fire station has a zone or an area, and we go out and we look out through all the areas that require weed abatement. When we find people that are not in compliance by the deadline, we leave you a notice on your door saying, here's what we found. Looks like you did a pretty good job, but you may just need to do a couple more things here. We'll be back in a week or so or 2 weeks and see that you got it done. We come back, they haven't got it done. We leave them another notice. Until it gets to the final notice to abate hazard. Once that happens, if they don't do it, then we do turn it over. It's taken care of by the city, and I believe it's attached to your taxes is how it's collected. But at some point, we have to do that. The citizens of Thousand Oaks, Ventura County in general, are so cooperative, and they do so much good work on their own. It's not that often that we ever get to that point. And I can't really remember the last time I've been in a position where we had to do that to somebody. They're so good about doing it anyway, but and we appreciate that so much. But it needs to be enforced, because it's not just your home, but the homes adjacent to yours could be at risk with a lack of weed abatement. Yes.
One thing that wasn't just touched on, I didn't see it, was the fact that palm trees are a big source of problems, because their leaves are so much filled with oil that in a high wind, when they catch on fire and the fronds blow, they can run up against your house and cause it to catch on fire. So I think that some palm trees are very, very dangerous to have around in your locality.
Are you asking my opinion about that, or?
Yes.
Well, I don't want to get in trouble with anybody in the city that planted the palm trees. Any type of dry, windy conditions, any type of vegetation that dries out is bad. I've seen palm trees that are on fire. I can't speak as to whether they're any worse than a big pine tree that's on fire. All of these things put off a lot of embers. A lot of them burn pretty intensely and pretty rapidly. So, but I have seen palm trees that are on fire, and they do put up a large amount of smoke, and yes, they do put off embers. Are they any worse than any of the other things out here? I think the more important thing is how far are they away from structures. If they're far enough away from structures, they shouldn't be as big of a problem. But I think you're right about that. They're not. They give you a little bit of a battle putting them out.
Jane?
Yes, Bill. Does Thousand Oaks have sufficient water in the delivery system to handle people staying and using their garden hoses?
It's a good question. I believe they do. In my experience, and I only want to speak from my experience only, I've never been in a situation on brush fires where I didn't have enough water that I needed, nor did I hear of circumstances where water pressure or water amount was a problem. Having said that, that doesn't mean that there hasn't been. It's just nothing I've been exposed to. So, I mean, I certainly with the structure fires that we've had, and we've had structure fires at the same time brush fires were going on, there seemed to be a lot. I think the people that are responsible for the water in the city, people on our fire departments that are responsible for those things, I'm sure have gotten together and addressed these issues to make sure of that. And I'm sure if there ever is a problem, we're going to hear about it, and I think the city's going to hear about it. But to my knowledge, it's never been a problem. You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I'd just like to ask one quick question.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't know what the policies are or anything like that. I know that legally you can't ask people to insist that people leave their homes. But just between you and me, you and I are good friends, Bill. Do you want me to stay, or would you rather I'd leave?
Well, being that we are such good friends, what are you asking me as a firefighter or as a civilian? As a firefighter, I'm going to tell you the best thing you can do is, when asked to leave, is to leave, and to be prepared to leave when we ask you. Everybody sees the footage on TV of people loading up their SUVs, and they'll ask them, which I always found pretty funny, is they're asking them while they're trying to load it up. Like, this is a great time for an interview. But you'll see they'll ask them, what are you doing? Well, pictures and this and that. And then you'll see some people that are they'll talk to them, and they were very organized. They knew ahead of time what they're going to bring. As a firefighter, yes, I would like you to leave your home when we ask you to. And the reason for that is because I have some knowledge that you don't have. I know where the fire is. I know where the fire is going. I know how bad the fire is. I know what resources are available. I know what type of efforts it's going to take from us to put it out. And so we take so many things into consideration before we'd ever ask somebody to leave their home. We don't take that lightly at all. That's a very serious situation. Having said that, when we do, yes, I would prefer that people leave, only because I don't want to see them get hurt. I don't want them to lose their house, but if you ask me if I had a choice between life or property, I would, I don't know if I should say it this way, but if I had a choice, yeah, I'd rather lose property than life. I'd rather not lose either, and that's our goal when we're fighting fires, is to protect life and property. But certainly rather have you survive the fire and worry about your home later.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
Also at the podium, yes, sir?
Yes, hi, my name's Dennis Wood. I'm a senior helper. And as we were talking, I was just thinking about evacuation for seniors and senior facilities. And I'm sure there's something in place, and maybe you can kind of give us a quick paragraph on that. And then also articulate on how often those plans are updated.
When you talk about evacuation plans for seniors,
In the event of a fire coming down and coming close to a senior facility, I'm talking about a housing facility, whether it be assisted living or other.
Correct.
Okay.
Should there be, let's say we do have an assisted living, and I'm not going to name one, or nor can I really think of one offhand, but let's say, and I'm sure it exists somewhere in the county, where an assisted living home is in the Wildland urban interface. Every fire station is responsible for what we refer to as a sector, and we have 3 shifts. I don't know, give you a little history. 24 hours per shift, 3 different crews of 24 hours, and it constantly rotates 7 days a week. Each crew is responsible for their sector, and we identify things in what we call a critical incident survey. We identify problem areas. For example, let's use an earthquake before we even use a fire, because wildfires and earthquakes both, I mean, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We know that if an earthquake hits, there are certain areas within our sector, within our response zone, that we need to go to check on, because of, like you're speaking of, it may be a population of senior citizens, the elderly. Right across the street here, we have Renaissance. So that is in my area. So yes, we have plans in place because we know ahead of time, and we've taken the preparation steps ahead of time to identify where these areas are. Having said that, we can't have somebody everywhere all the time, so we have to prioritize. Depending on where it is, what the situation is, then we prioritize at that time and say, okay, we know we have this, but I'd be very surprised if a assisted living home in a wildland urban interface with a fire getting anywhere near it would be overlooked. These are the kind of things that we plan ahead for and make sure that we're aware of.
Do they have somebody in-house that's kind of a fire marshal and knows a drill in the event of a fire?
In-house where?
Let's ABC assisted living.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And do they have an executive or an administrator that has a fire evacuation plan to get everybody orderly out of the building?
The administrators of these assisted living homes, they have to go through a fire inspection, what we call a fire safety inspection every year. They're regulated like a business. They have to have fire extinguishers. They have to have an evacuation plan posted on the wall, the signage, even if it's a 3,000 square foot home. So the administrator assumes the role of what you're talking about. They assume the role of responsibility for their residents, and they can delegate that responsibility to their subordinates. They could say, when I'm not here, because obviously the administrators of these assisted livings, most of them don't live in the assisted living home, they delegate authority in that, but they're ultimately responsible for the tenants in their care. So they are a business, and in being a business that's occupied 24 hours like that, they have to have they have to have safety procedures in place. Fire extinguishers, fire alarms, they have to have, you've seen the, like they have up on the wall here, the flashing lights that go off and alert you to fire. They have to have systems in place for that, and that's regulated through our Fire Prevention Bureau there, and the safety inspections that our fire department does.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Nick.
Yeah. One of the things that we often associate with fires that we see on television, the large ones and so forth, is that personnel and equipment are borrowed from other fire departments, sometimes from out of state. And you mentioned that each department is responsible for a sector. What portion of the time are firemen off somewhere else, out of their sector, fighting a fire on loan to somebody else?
That's an excellent question. That is what we refer to as mutual aid. And before I go any further, understand that mutual aid works both ways. Because when if you remember, for example, the fire, I believe, was in 2003, the Simi Valley fire. Was it 2003? Maybe it was before that. That was more fire than we could handle, correct? Right. So we borrowed from other departments. To give you an accurate number of how, I can't give you days, hours, and times of how often we're gone, but when a request is made for mutual aid from other departments of our department, the fire chief takes into consideration what's going on in our county first. Obviously, we want to be a good neighbor. We want to give to them so we can get back from them in our time of need. But a plan is in place, and it's way above my rank on how these decisions are made. But a plan is in place to be able to give what we can when we can without having such a drawdown in our own resources that we can't handle our own county. Also keep in mind that when we send, for example, they're called strike teams, by the way. A county may request a strike team. I was up in one in Santa Barbara last year. 5 engines and a battalion chief to coordinate the 5 engines. They drive to wherever the fire is, they go into staging, they get an assignment. So when you get a request for a strike team and you take these 5 engines out of the county, the moment we know that we're going to send these 5 out, before we tell them they're going out, we're going to put the word out to the off-duty employees to come in. Excuse me. And so what we end up doing is we backfill behind them. I hope I'm answering your question okay. But what I'm trying to say is, yes, there are times when we sent more than one strike team out of county. In my experience, we've always had enough personnel. In fact, what we have found, I know because I've called up, I like to work extra, I like to work overtime. I have found I call too late. I'll call them and I go, hey, I understand that we sent 2 strike teams out. I'm available. Do you need me? And they said, no, we got more bodies and we have fire engines to put them on. Or, all the fire engines all the stations are full. I'm thinking, how can this be? But we have engines in reserve. We have reserve engines. We don't give away when we get a new fire engine. Remember, we're firemen and we take great pride in our fire engines and we make them last as long as we can. But when one is done, it doesn't necessarily go away. It goes into reserve. So when they go out, more personnel are brought in to staff them, and the policy of our fire chief is not to allow his county to go unprotected. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Bill, thank you very much for such an informative program. Thanks for coming, taking your time. And now we're going to move on to our committee reports. Our first committee report will be on health care. But there will be no report on health care this month. So that will take us to housing. Commissioner Norkin, do you have a report?
Yes, I have a brief report. I don't really have a housing report today, but I would like to tell everybody listening that we are putting on a housing forum panel for the April 1st broadcast, and it should be very interesting. And we're going to have a lot of experts in the housing field at our panel, so please come, ask questions, and listen and get lots of information. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. That brings us to programs and public information, and right back to you again, Harry.
Okay. Our March meeting is going to feature Dr. Aaron Bruske. Let me read you a short brief about Dr. Bruske. People used to cry when they first met Calabasas resident Dr. Arnold Bruske. Now they leave with a smile. Bruske, you see, began his career as an obstetrician, and even though he helped pioneer the field of holistic birthing. He opened the nation's first alternate children's center in 1981. His newborns invariably cried, "That never changed." Bruske's latest foray into the world of natural health is Smiles, an innovative enrichment program that helps seniors with Alzheimer's diseases and other forms of dementia. Bruske described his work as preventive gerontology, a way to make it easier for those at the other end of the life cycle. "I teach people how to age gracefully and successfully," says the 62-year-old physician. "The reason seniors have a problem is they stop preparing the bodies, their minds, and their immune systems because they stop being active." So if you're interested in learning all about Dr. Bruske's system, please come to our March meeting and enjoy Dr. Bruske. He's a dynamic speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. Moving on, our next committee report will be on fraud. Commissioner Chintes.
Well, you can't pick up a newspaper or turn on your television set without knowing that foreclosures are a big thing in this country. And when foreclosures are increasing, so are scams and con men who come along to offer to help you with your problem. What they really do is take your money and ruin your credit and wipe out whatever equity you have in your home. And they take advantage of people who are facing foreclosure because they're very vulnerable and they're desperate for any kind of help they can get. And these victims are very easy for them to find because the lenders actually publish the notices in the newspapers and on the websites before they actually do a foreclosure. And in fact, I went and checked, and I was shocked to find that there were 161 homes in Thousand Oaks that are in what we call pre-foreclosure, not foreclosed yet. There are almost 100 that actually have been foreclosed this past year. And in Newbury Park, there are 115 homes that are in pre-foreclosure. So a con man can get this list just as easily as I can. So then they contact these people by mail, telephone, or an email, and they call themselves foreclosure consultants, or mortgage consultants, or foreclosure rescue agents. Now, they're all legitimate financial counselors, and your lender can help you find them or can help you avoid foreclosure if there are any ways of avoiding it. We'll tell you a little later how to find them, but here are the things you have to watch out for to avoid the scammers. One thing is a con man may offer to make your mortgage payments for you. He tells you to sign your deed over to him. You may laugh, but this happens. You sign your deed over to him so he can make the payments, and you just pay him a smaller amount for rent. Well, signing over your deed gives him the right to sell your house and evict you. You'll still be responsible for the mortgage debt because your name is what's on the loan papers. And bankruptcy is probably all that's left to you, and your credit will be ruined. Another scam is an offer to refinance your loan so you can afford the payments. You sign lots of papers for the loan, and in those papers is a deed which gives the scammer title to your home. You end up in the same place with the other guy with no house, and you still have the mortgage to pay off.
Not a good deal.
Then there's an idea that you can declare bankruptcy, and that'll stop the foreclosure. And they expand on this idea by getting a whole bunch of people that you give portions of your home to. Then each of them, in turn, at spaced intervals, files for bankruptcy. And each of those filings will definitely delay your foreclosure. But it's only temporarily. Eventually you're going to run out of people. And eventually you lose your home and any equity you had in it. And now that you have this bankruptcy over you, if you ever really needed to file for bankruptcy, it's no longer available. You've lost that ability to do it. Now, the most innocuous and most plentiful scammers are those who will help you with your problem for a fee. They take your money, but they do nothing. Well, all you've lost is your money. At least you haven't lost your house. And of course, you still have the foreclosure problem. And this is the most popular scam. Well, what you want to avoid is, first of all, do not sign any papers you have not read completely and that you don't understand, especially a deed. These scammers are experts in talking to you into doing things that you shouldn't do, so be careful. Make your payments directly to your lender. Don't trust anyone else to make them for you, no matter what they tell you. Now, it's not all hopeless. There's legitimate, honest help available to you. First and foremost, contact your mortgage server or the lender. There are a lot of federal and state actions in the works that encourage them to help you out. The U.S. Housing and Urban Development Department, remember HUD, HUD, can help you find approved housing and financial consultants. So, could we have that little slide up there? No, maybe not. Maybe we can. Anyway, I'll read it to you. If you go to www.hud.gov/foreclosure, you'll find lots of useful information on foreclosure and access to their listing of approved counselors. And there are quite a few of them in Los Angeles County, and the nearest one to us is up in Camarillo, I believe. If you don't have internet access, you can call 800-569-4287. So I guess another source of help is something called the Home Ownership Preservation Foundation, and they can be reached at 888-995-HOPE. HOPE.
Thank you, Martin. Next committee report is on our Senior Master Adult Plan. Bill?
Thank you, Jim. All of our viewers have been, over the past year, have been talking and watching our progress on the preparation of the Senior Adult Master Plan. You've participated in surveys throughout the community. We've even had our knowledgeable people in the senior community volunteering and setting up being part of a senior advisory group. We are now in the process of assembling the final report. But we're now entering a very, very important phase, and we call it our community meeting. We are inviting all those who were born prior to 1964 to have the opportunity to come to two events that are going to be held in Thousand Oaks. And the question we're asking you is, what should be the future of your community? We want your opinion. We'd like to hear from you. And the way to do that is to attend one of these meetings, and I'll give you that information shortly. But if you had not been involved in the surveys, or some new situations have evolved in your lives, or what's happened during the past year, if you want to be able to tell the city what your needs are, or how you see the future of the senior community, then you need to come to these meetings, okay? The first meeting will be on February 19th. That's a Friday, I believe. Thursday, thank you. And it's going to be at the Civic Arts Plaza and at the Fred Cavley Gallery from 6 to 9. There will be refreshments. The next date will be at the Goebel Senior Center on February 23rd, Monday, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., and lunch will be provided as part of the program. So again, we always say there are free lunches. But in order to participate, since seating is going to be limited, reservations are required, and you can make the reservations in two ways. One, by phoning 449-2743, or if you are on the internet and have a computer, we hope you do, Council on Aging, one word, Council on Aging at untitled.oaks.org. Now, let me just go over again why you really need to be at this meeting, at these meetings. The city has been planning for a healthy, adult-friendly community through outreach, advocacy, and partnering. The City of Thousand Oaks Council on Aging, the Conejo Recreation Park District, local agencies, community senior service providers, and community members are collaboratively developing this plan. This is a unique effort and a great opportunity for you to be involved. And finally, let me just note that our new mayor, Mayor Tom Glancy, would like to mention the following things: that these workshops will provide another important layer of information for the Council on Aging to include into their senior master plan. Aside from their survey, this information will help stakeholders such as the city, the county, and nonprofit providers better serve this valuable and growing population. So the mayor is suggesting that if you want to provide information to him and the council, by all means, please attend this. And again, reservations are required for you to attend. You will see there will be a lot of publicity coming out in the next a few weeks, and there will be lots of flyers in the Global Center and other places. But time is running short, and we'd like you to sign up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mel. Now we're moving on to our liaison report, so right back at you, big guy.
Are you going to?
Yeah, let me say a little something about the Ventura County Area Agency on Aging are inviting individuals from between the ages of 40 and 60 for a free informational seminar to be held at the Reagan Library on April 18th. This is a big event, folks, and there will be over 30 exhibitors that are experts in the field of healthy living and having a healthy lifestyle. And there are 6 free seminars to choose from. You can do any or all, dealing with subjects as health insurance, job changes, lifestyle changes, caregiving, healthy living, and financial planning for retirement. Lots of good information there. There'll be more information on this seminar coming up. It's called Catch the Wave, Midlife, Crisis or Opportunity. Reservations will be required, and you may make your reservations by calling the VC AAA at area code 805-477-7300. Look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you. Go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. There are two things I'd like to note about that program. One, again, lunch will be provided, and two, all those who attend the program will get after the program will get a free tour of the Reagan Center. So, and they have this great exhibit, the Magna Carta exhibit that's there now, and I've spoken with some of the docents there, and they're prepared to handle a large crowd, and I think you'll all enjoy that. But primarily, if you're those of you out there who have boomer children, and you'd like them to get the right information and to participate, please tell them about this. Thank you.
Let me add something.
Oh, go ahead.
Richard gave us a pretty complete description of what the service that they're providing for income tax preparation. But if this is your first time with them, in other words, they didn't do your return last year, then you, in addition to the things he mentioned, bring with you a copy of last year's tax returns. And if you are planning to have your refund deposited directly to your bank account, bring that information with you as well.
Thank you, Martin. And now, I'm curious, is there anything going on at the Global Center, Andrea?
Oh, funny you should ask. Anyhow, we've got lots of different things going on. This last couple months, the Global Senior Adult Center has its own nonprofit board of commissioners, and it's a 15-member board, and we have people's terms who are coming up and a few that aren't going to reapply. And so if anybody's interested in being a commissioner and helping advise and give input for the runnings or programs of the center, they've got till February 6th. They've got till this Friday to apply, and we have the applications at the center as well as the Conejo Recreation and Park District main office. So it's a fun way to volunteer and give back. It's a monthly meeting, and there are some other committees that you may be on, but it's a neat way to give back and use your expertise for the center and the community. So that's February 6th is the deadline for that. You were just talking about the income tax preparation, and that's under the auspices of the RSVP program. However, it is at our center, and that's starting tomorrow from 9 to 3:30, so it'll be Thursday and Friday at our center from now till the end of tax time. But they're also doing Wednesdays, so today they actually started up over at the Newberry Park branch of the library. So you've got 3 days a week for the next 6-8 weeks to get your taxes done for free. Also, you just need to be supposedly 60 and older or an income of $45,000 or less. So you don't necessarily need to be, quote, a senior citizen to have your taxes done for free. So we do get people that are in college and school or other families. So bring last year's tax forms, or if you're a first-time filer, bring everything that you possibly would need to file your taxes. And it's first come, first served, so don't call about reservations or any of that. Just come on in and we'll get you done. Irma Cacker is out there doing awesome, and she's going to be presenting her Woman Around the World Part 1, because she's gone around the world a couple times, so this is her first go-around. And what's exciting is we've been working with her to put her slides onto a CD and actually work it off the computer. So that's kind of exciting. We'll be doing that for the first time with her. And that'll be, I believe, February 18th at 12:15 to 1:45. Let's just go ahead and show on up. Saturday. So this is a Saturday one, February 21st. Moving Seniors Forward Community Resource Network Group. It's a really fun group. It's a little bit of everybody in the community with concerns for seniors and, quote, moving them forward through life and aiding. They're doing a lecture series, but they're having Dr. James Sutton from the Pacific Neuroscience there, and he's going to be speaking on the recent research, the future diagnosing and treatment of memory loss. So I know that's a big thing that's been out there because they've been making all sorts of different research items, finding out different things, and that we can regrow and regenerate some of our memory and whatnot. So that's been an up-and-coming thing that's been reported on time and time and again in the news over the last few months. So it'll be interesting to have them there. Seating is limited, so you're going to have to call in for reservations. And at the end of my talk, I'll give you the phone number. And breakfast is going to be served, so that'll be a nice thing to come and have breakfast and get a really good lecture series. February 18th, we are doing our qualifying tournament, so those who play pool. We do a teen versus senior pool tournament every year, so we're actually doing our qualifying for the seniors, pick out our best seniors to play. And February 23rd, we have our Old Cranks Bicycle Club doing their monthly meeting, and they're opening up the meeting to everybody because they've got a really wonderful speaker, Terry Schroeder. He was head coach of Team USA Water Polo, and himself an Olympic silver medalist from Beijing. So He will be there talking, and that's at 7 p.m. Monday, February 23rd. So that could be a very interesting talk. So they're opening that up to everybody. And again, space is limited. And the fun thing is, everybody's heard about the Wii system, playing kind of like virtual reality sports and gaming. It's not as hard as using your fingers for all these different controls. Well, we've got the Wii system on our big, large TV, and we have instruction times and just general use times. And first instruction time was yesterday, and we had about 5 people show up, or Monday, had about 5 people show up, and we had a couple people show up for instruction time yesterday. So you can come on down and bowl and play baseball and go boxing or golfing and get instruction by our staff person, Eric. And then once you've got the hang of it, then we've got our general use times to just come in the center and play with those. So that's a really fun thing. And I just want to kind of piggyback on what Mel was saying earlier about the Senior Adult Master Plan. All these flyers are in our newsletter, plus we have more at the center. And what's really exciting about this is that we have had so many different community members working on so many different spots as far as recreation, housing, transportation, volunteerism, finances, and everybody's worked really hard off of all the different surveys that were done over months and months of work. So it's really a neat thing to be able to have the community come. And that way you'll be able to sit in, you'll be able to listen and hear, and have some final input to what all these committees have done and what the Council on Aging has worked so hard for. So it's really important, if you're interested in your community and what's going to be done over the next 10, 15, 20 years, it's really good to come. So you might have some other ideas other than what was found in the surveys that may be taken into consideration, and get to meet everybody. Plus, you get to have some good food, too, and meet some awesome people. So definitely, if you're interested in this, call into the city, make reservations for either the February 19th one from 6 to 9 p.m. here at the Civic Arts Plaza, or the one at the Global Senior Adult Center on Monday the 23rd from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And the number you want to call for that one is 805-449-2743. And of course, if you don't get a live person, definitely leave a message and your name and phone number. And for anything at the Global Center that I spoke on, that's 805-381-2744. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that follow-up on the master plan and on the community meetings, Andrea. I should have asked this question of Richard when he was here at during public comments. Have you noticed right now, this year compared with last year, given the financial situation, et cetera, and the change that's taken place in the year, have you seen any change in the numbers of clients coming through on the income tax preparation? Or
well, since they're just starting, I have no numbers. Each year we grow, and we're the largest in the state of California through the RSVP program at the Global Senior Adult Center. We serve the largest amount of people. So each year has grown by 10 to 30% over the last 6 years that I've been there. So I don't expect it to slow down at all.
Because I was thinking that, given that Richard mentioned that the limit, there was a certain salary limit, a certain income limit to receive the service, and unfortunately, I suspect it could very well be some people who perhaps were above that and couldn't do it.
Well, as long as you're a senior. You could earn 100, 200,000, or 20,000. Okay. As long as you're a senior, that's fine. It's if you're under 60, it's $45,000 per year or less. So as long as you're 60 and above, the income level does not make any difference.
Well, I suspect it might even apply to the under 60s too.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The income level of 45,000 or less. I'm sure there's quite a few people out there. Anything else? Well, I thank you all.
Thank you, Andrea. We now come to our commissioner comments and special events announcements. Are there any members of our audience that would like to announce a special event of any sort? We do ask that all of you out there, if you have any special events coming up, birthdays, anniversaries, births of grandchildren, great-grandchildren, let us know. We'd be happy to announce it. Or if you want to, come on down and get in front of our cameras and announce it yourself. I will just announce a special little fun thing. I spent the weekend with my little tiny great-granddaughter. Now, I'll tell you, folks, that's hours well spent. So, if there are no other special announcements, on behalf of the Council on Aging, we would wish to offer our best wishes and prayers to Mayor Tom Glancy, who had to be rushed to the hospital yesterday. We'll hope and pray that he gets well and returns to work soon. Hurry back, Tom. Any other comments? Any other statements? And I declare this meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Yeah, we don't get that.